Hey, it's Mazzy, and I'm in Mazzy Jr.'s studio in Portland, Oregon, and I just want to do this little introduction, another Mazzy and Mazzy video discussion of music, of streaming, of collections, of what to listen to. How do you listen to music? What to do with your collections, you know? So enjoy it. Stand by. Here we go. So, this is Mazzy and Mazzy Part 2, a second drive. We're driving from Seattle to Portland now. This guy, Joseph, lives in Portland. A couple comments on the last one. Someone asked me if he goes by Mazzy also, Mazzy Jr., and the answer is no. I don't think, right? Nobody calls you Mazzy, right?
No.
You could be a Mazzy if you wanted to.
I can be a lot of things if I wanted to.
You could, this is America. You can almost be whatever you want. But then you got to be careful when you're a kid, because it started out, I think in junior high school, a few people started calling me Maz. This is my last name, Maslov. Our last name, Maslov. But of course, then the assholes, that would pick on you would do things, and the bullies, like Maz the Spaz. Did you ever get that?
No, I never got anything for my last name.
You did? God, you lived in that's because you went to friggin' art school. Well, it wasn't art school. Joseph went to a public high school, kind of like Fame, right? SOTA,
Fame.
School of the Arts.
Fame?
Fame? You know Fame?
I don't know Fame.
Movie Fame, we're gonna live forever. It's about this school, I think it was actually called Fame, in New York City. And it's an art school of actors and theater majors and choreographers and directors and music, everything to do with arts, basically what you went to.
Okay.
And it's a public school, and of course there's a great movie with the highs and lows of being a high school art school person. But Joe's school, you'd have your math, science, history, everything in the morning, and then your major in the afternoon, right?
Yeah, it was really cool.
Yeah. What was your major?
Media, which is just filmmaking.
Okay, and you concentrate on animation.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah. All right. Okay, so that leads us to this music conversation. Oh, anyway, and then someone else commented, I just wasted something, I'm paraphrasing, that he wasted 23 minutes listening to the engine of my car and a boring conversation.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people liked it, so we'll do this again and see how it goes. So you were asking me about how I listen to music, and we were talking about how we each listen to music.
Right. You were saying you don't use any streaming services. Everything you have is kind of it seems like I remember when I was younger, you used to, and you still do have a hard drive that you would just have everything on, and you just kind of continue to add to that archive.
Well, I'm the generation of, and I continue to buy physical media. My preference when I'm sitting and listening and really paying attention, I'd say 75% of the time I play vinyl, I play records. Now, obviously, when you have people over, unless it's a record party or you're listening with one or two friends, turning records over and, on an evening, if you're hanging out, can be a pain. But it also can be kind of fun, like when we do the whack-a-moles, pulling a record and playing it.
It's a little more interactive.
It's very interactive.
Yeah, I get it.
Now, I have a big CD collection, as you know, and I went through a 20-year period buying CDs and not vinyl. And every time I've gotten CDs, I burn it to a hard drive. So yes, I have a hard drive. I have a 4 terabyte hard drive with something like, 100,000 songs? I forgot how many, maybe 150,000 songs. So pretty much, I'd say 90% of my CDs are on a hard drive, maybe 80%. And I've given you a hard drive, not
Right.
recently.
Right.
I have 4 friends around the country with copies of my hard drive. Not the most recent one, and especially my buddy, Mr. Bacon, the Beatles England buddy. We trade off. Like, if one of us is adding things, we trade off, so pretty much, I don't keep a backup of my hard drive, but if something happens, either you'd probably have the latest one, but David has the latest one.
Right.
So I do occasionally play that. If I have a party, I'd put on random or make a playlist or something like that. However, again, it's mostly records. In my office, I'll play CDs. But how do you listen to music?
I guess there's. It's interesting because so many people have different music listening habits, right? And so for me, when you work in video, hard drive space is at a premium, and I can't be using that for it can get expensive, buying hard drives and filling that stuff up. So if I don't have to, I feel like most people nowadays, everything is a lot of stuff is streaming just A, for the convenience, and B, again, I'm realizing over time that a lot of people don't really have a lot of hard drive space anymore, and it's because everything's been offloaded.
Clouded.
And it's weird because I work in video, I've never stopped using kind of big hard drives, but when I interact with other people in my life, it's kind of rare to have people using external drives for certain things, unless it's either a backup of something they want at home, which again, even most backups are in the cloud now, or games, just because they're so huge and they need to be stored locally. I think those are the few.
I mean, do you have any friends of any age that buy physical music in terms of either CDs or vinyl?
Yes, I have one or two friends who will actually buy vinyl of kind of soundtracks they love, and then they will use them almost as posters, right? They will just hang them on their wall, and then when
they won't play them.
They will, but they will have them on. That's where they store them. Is
the covers and just the whole thing?
Yeah,
like they stand it up in a frame type thing, or
sometimes. But
do they nail it, like stick through the plastic?
That's a really good question. I think he uses those adhesive tags to put them on.
So they're not like using staple guns.
Yeah, exactly.
That's not the sound of a staple gun, is it? That was like a bad. Can you do an imitation of a staple gun?
No.
Do you know what a staple gun sounds like?
I know what a staple gun sounds like.
Didn't they use?
You can put one in post here,
or one of those nail guns.
Oh yeah.
I can't do post.
Well, you could use a nail gun in the center, so you wouldn't damage the record.
Through
right?
the
through the
spindle hole.
Yeah.
Okay, you know what a spindle hole is called.
And then if you that's really interesting to have. How many like
holes in a record?
Well, I was going to ask, how many vertically oriented record players are there? Can you just adhere a record to a wall and then have a needle on?
There is I know of one, but it's to me like a gimmick type
of course
thing.
It's a gimmick, but does it work?
I think it works. I don't know about the fidelity wise, how great it is. It's not a great. We're not doing that. We're not doing that. Here, let me ask you this, and I don't want to be morbid or anything, but someday, I assume, unless I sell off, you're going to get my record collection.
Okay.
What are you going to do with it?
I'm going to buy a single vertical record player, and I'm going to go through all of them.
Why don't you just nail every album cover to the wall of your house? Or my house. It'll be all.
Yeah.
I mean, theoretically, unless something changes, my house will be your house. If there's any debt on it, you'll have to pay it off eventually or get a mortgage on it. But it's a big, fucking great house. It's already worth twice what I bought it for. Only 8 years ago, it's over doubled in value in Seattle.
But we were talking about
records, music.
Records.
Yeah, but you have the house with the records in the house.
I understand.
So I mean, you can sell the house, you can sell the records. There's a thing. Let me just tell you this, and I probably mentioned it, but you probably don't forget because your mind is in illustration and anime and gaming and all that stuff. But there's an online thing called Discogs. Have you ever heard of Discogs?
I have. Yeah.
It's like a database, and you can sell through it, mostly music. I don't know if they do anything else, but it's a database that you can store your collections and sell if you want. And I have about 2/3 of my collection, not my CDs, but my vinyl, inputted into Discogs.
Okay.
So, and then what's great about it, you see the low value, medium value, and high value.
Interesting, of your entire collection. Wow.
And that's based on actual sales.
Wow, okay.
Over millions of users of it. So where I am right now with 2/3 of my collection in, my high value, like again, what does that mean?
Of course,
right?
yeah.
Is about $173,000.
I totally believe it.
Yeah, and that's not even all my records. And my median value, I'm thinking, I haven't looked recent, is about $120,000.
Okay.
And that's what theoretically an insurance company will allow me to, they'll insure it for the median value. I
Right.
think that's how it's working now.
You insure your record collection?
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, I have a rider on my homeowners and policies.
That's wild.
Well, because
cool.
something.
No,
we have
I
a friend. There's a
I
guy.
totally get it.
There's a guy
It makes
named
sense.
Steve Carlson, who is a vinyl community friend. Almost a year ago, he lives in the Midwest. There was a break in the dam. His house was flooded. Downstairs, where his record room is, and his entire record collection was gone.
Oh,
I don't
no.
think he was insured. Friends did a Kickstarter. A lot of vinyl community. We donated records. He's back in it. He's moved upstairs smartly, and so you should need some kind of insurance. And of course,
Right.
insurance companies want to dick you around and don't want to insure for the full value. My point is, at some point, through a friend of mine or myself, I will give you my login to Discogs, so at least you'll have an idea if the collection ever does go to you. If you choose to, the value of it.
That's a really
It's a good idea. Now, of course, if a record store or a record dealer comes over and buys the entire collection, you ain't gonna get even the medium price. If you're lucky, if you get the low value price. But we have certain records there that you can sort and see what's worth it, and maybe the most expensive ones you sell piecemeal. If you don't want them for yourself, you sell them because you could get a lot of money. I have records that are worth $200, $300, $400, $500 for one friggin' record. That are audiophile or just collector's items. And I don't even have my Beatle collection's not even in there yet, so it's going to be interesting to see what that's worth.
Right.
But most people don't want to sell things off. If you're not into it, it's a pain in the ass trying to sell it. It's like selling on eBay or Discogs or that kind of thing, and waiting, for someone to pay and review and all that. Pack it up and ship it. Then they get all pissy because there's a click here that you didn't know there was, all that bullshit.
Well, okay, so my question to you is, I think nowadays so much is digital, and it's so easy to access so many different things and such a wider breadth of things. And I think I like to tether this to kind of millennials and their.
Are you a millennial?
Yeah, I fit.
I should know this.
I fit comfortably in that.
Okay, you're a millennial.
It's like anyone who's between 27 and 35 right now.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Totally.
Whatever.
On the tail end of the boomer period,
But
sort of. Well, not tail end, but.
The point I'm trying to make is that I have moved 2 times in the past year.
From San Francisco to
From
Portland.
San Francisco to Portland, and then another place in Portland. And then before that, moving several times and having to move all of my things was a nightmare. And I was wondering, I pared so much of my stuff down that even a number of my collections of whether it's kind of games or albums or this or that, at a certain point, it's like, why do I have like...
You got shit in my garage still.
I have shit in your garage still.
Art books, some art books.
Exactly, and that's my point. Do
you need them?
Do I need them? And I think when I moved enough, the question was, is it worth having all of this? And it was, when I moved enough times, the answer was very easily no. And it was a much easier than I expected when I had to move across state to kind of go through my things and think, okay, well, how much of this, if I lost it, would I be upset about? And I could collect, I had a couple key games and albums and things that I kept and books. But my question to you is, you've been collecting things even before you had a home. You had
when I lived at home with my parents.
I was going to say,
that's when I was buying records, but we didn't have the option to digital in those days.
Right. So what I was going to ask is, how has your collection changed, or how has
it's got fucking bigger.
Yes, but what I was going to say is, between being home at your parents' place to having an apartment to having your own home, how has either your collection changed or your kind of perception of collecting?
Well, in my case, it's grown. The only time I got rid of records, and I said this before, in '95-ish, I purged about 2,000 albums.
Wow.
From about 6,000 I had. And I had so many records because I was in the record business for 8-9 years.
This was when?
When I purged them.
What year was that, did you say?
95.
Okay.
You were about 5 years old.
Okay.
I got rid of 2,000 of my records, and because I was buying CDs, and CDs was the better format. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. It's bullshit. It's not in terms of listening. But I'm fine with CDs, so I'm not a vinyl snooty ass person. But my collection has grown. Now, since 1980, I was just trying to think this as you were talking about this. I've only moved 4 times since 1980, and when we lived in San Francisco at Florida Street, Florida Street, we lived there for 23 years. So until I moved to Seattle, I hadn't moved in 23 years, and that was the first home I owned in San Francisco, anywhere, Florida Street, and we did the renovation. I had to store things for a while, but moving records is a pain in the friggin' ass.
Yeah, I imagine.
I used to have a deal with all my friends. If any one of us moved, we'd help the other move records, because records are the burden. Because my friend Brooks and Vernon and Coleman, and Larry, except for Larry, we all worked in the record business at one point, and we had a shitload of records. And it's a pain. Now, the deal is we're older now, so we don't do it. We pay movers to do it. Or people like you help us. You help me a little,
right.
A lot, actually. I don't think I can ever move those again. So they're downstairs on a slab, not on a wooden floor. It's sturdy. They're safe. I mean, God forbid something could happen to them. But I can't see moving again. And next time would I sell them? I don't know. I can totally see getting rid of my CDs, getting rid of my collection, which I may at some point, Otherwise, it's going to be your burden. You and your mother's burden, maybe, depending on what happens. I mean, is that a burden? I mean, they're worth something, so don't just, sell them off cheaply.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
But, that's something that I think it's a good discussion for all of you who are watching this, who are advancing in age. I'm a young 66 years old boomer, grew up with the Beatles, and I love having the physical album. Do I need 6,000 albums? The answer is probably not. At some point, will I pare them down and just keep certain things? Maybe. Would I, as I retire soon, will I start selling off, myself, so I can enjoy some of the financial rewards early? Or, to maintain that? I don't know. So, I mean, can you see ever, having a record player and playing records, or is that just not an interest to you? I know it's a time-consuming thing, but there is a zen point, you take an hour every evening or 2 hours and sit back and maybe have a beer or something.
It's less time-consuming, and it's more the space. Right, I think, I feel like I know a lot of people my age who love, I think most people my age love the idea of records, and a lot of my friends have record players, but they had to find, for whatever space they live in, really small record players, or kind of half record players, those players where where half the disc it's basically the player is maybe 3/4 of the size of an actual LP, and half the disc
like a Crosley.
Yes.
It leans over. It's like a portable suitcase.
Yes.
Yeah. Crosley is probably the bad example. We don't like those. I mean, actually, I will say there are some better Crosleys with diamond stylus, the tabletop version rather than the suitcase versions.
But I think for people my age, I don't think they give a shit about whether the quality is better or not. There's a novelty of having a mechanical device there, right? I think a lot of times, for example, what was it? I think video formats kept updating from VHS to DVD to Blu-ray to whatever the hell next, and all the appeal at the time was better and better video quality.
And now we have streaming.
And now we have streaming, where it is objectively worse, but no one cares because they would much rather have a library that they don't have to save.
Most of us now have streaming services, high definition, which is pretty damn good. But not everyone has high broadband where they live. Most people do.
Right, but even if you have high broadband, the act of streaming. The act of streaming lowers your image quality than if it was off a disc, right?
Right, if you have a 4K or something.
Not even a 4K. Just if you have an HD film on a Blu-ray versus an HD film streaming, the streaming will compress your image. And that I feel like is the video equivalent of your audio file scenario where, yes, technically one is visually better than the other, but would you rather have a house full of Blu-rays, or would you rather have a Netflix subscription?
Let me ask you this. Now, you listen to music, you stream. What services do you use for streaming?
So I have a Spotify account.
You use it?
I do. But what I use for discovering music is actually YouTube. Because
like this.
Yeah, like this. Like.
Are you a subscriber to my channel?
I believe so. I subscribe to a lot of channels.
Better fucking be, man. I'm trying to get to 12,000 subscribers.
I got those numbers up.
I need like what, 80 more subscribers or 70 more subscribers, and I had 12,000.
Well, I've got 3 accounts, so I can get you another 2 at least.
Maslow's music. What's Norman Maslov? So,
but
subscribe. Push that button right now.
But I think
now.
I think
for the boy.
The reason why YouTube works so well is because if someone, for example, if someone sends me a Spotify link, that assumes 2 things: 1, that they're on Spotify, and 2, that the person you're sending it to has a Spotify account. Right? You can't listen to the entire song if you don't. And so, if there's a YouTube link, then anyone can watch it.
Does the quality matter to you? Because you listen on a computer, right?
Yeah, not really. Only in so much as I think there's a ceiling to that.
Got it.
Where if I have a really low bit rate and the song is chugging or sounds hyper compressed and sounds like garbage, that's one thing. But audio streaming, it takes so little data compared to video, right?
Right.
That it's really an issue.
Now, are you aware of, like, for instance, Amazon started last year like a high definition music option, like HD?
No.
So it's high res, and they're high res things like, was it Quiznos? No, Quiznos is a sandwich.
Quiznos
is a sandwich company.
It's delicious.
No, but not. What is it? Quobiz?
I don't know.
Someone's gonna write in the comments. The high definition where people can stream high definition music or get. I don't know if they stream it or download. I don't remember. It's not the sandwich company.
When you say high definition music, does that just mean a higher bit rate? Is it?
Well,
how do you define that?
It's 192K. I used to know all this and I forget. So someone's gonna do the details because there's smarter people watching this than I am about this topic because I don't do it, and I read it all the time. I always forget that high res. Like Neil Young had a thing for a while called Pono, and everyone had to buy this. Like, you remember that candy in the triangle? Tubular. What's it called?
Toblerone?
Is that what it's called?
Yeah, Toblerone.
It's like a candy bar. It's rectangular.
Yeah. Well, it's got a really fantastic font.
Yes.
Yeah.
Neil Young made basically his version of an iPod. That's a high definition version with that whole big Pono, P-O-N-O, streaming service and download thing. You can buy music high def because he hates MP3s and all that bullshit.
That makes sense.
And squashed music and everything. It kind of flopped eventually. It's kind of like my friend Brooks, Jazz Shit Brooks. When we were buying iPods, I bought you an iPod. I remember I had an iPod. Brooks bought the squirting device. What was it called? A Zune.
I was just gonna mention, have you ever bought a Zune?
I never bought it.
No.
I'm not a Microsoft person. The Zune was the biggest joke.
Right.
And they used to their whole feature promoting that you could squirt someone. Like, you could meet someone on the subway and squirt them.
Oh, right.
Basically, you could share a song from, if someone had a Zune and a Zune account,
wow,
to another person with a Zune. Can you imagine walking up to a girl, woman on a subway and say, "Can I squirt you?" Anyway, I mean, that's like, come on. A Zune, really, Brooks?
I don't think you're gonna walk up to any stranger on a subway and offer them to trade music on your Zune.
Like the Son of Sam or
But
something.
I don't know. I know it's a big joke, but I love that tech, that cool shortwave kind of.
Like sharing?
Yeah, because I think there are a lot of Palm Pilots had those, and a lot of Nintendo products had those, and I think those are more popular in Japan just because you're more likely to come across people in that close proximity there than in anywhere in America.
Right. Oh, look, we're passing. This is where I got a speeding ticket. We're almost at Slater Kinney.
Well, be mindful.
Slater Olympia is the exit here. Slater Kinney Boulevard. Slater Kinney is Slater Kinney?
I do know Slater Kinney.
Riot Girls from Carrie Brownstein from
which is funny
Portlandia.
because we're on our way to Portland.
And we're going to Portland right now, Slater Kinney. I think that might be a good time. Let's wind this up because we're going on 25 minutes. So any closing words about streaming and downloading and everything? I know you were talking, I interrupted you, but Slater Kinney, is an important thing to share.
They're important. I really like Slater Kinney. They're great. Sorry. But for me, the worst part about streaming is just I wish I knew more about kind of artist rights and figuring out how to get them paid, because everything I hear about streaming is that artists just get screwed, and I hate that, and I don't
fucking exactly. As and some of the people watch me know, I represent commercial photographers,
right.
And I try to protect the copyright of their images and licensing their work. And people just download images or use images without permission, and you got to ask first. And that's what it went back to when people sampled. You want to sample, ask and sample things.
But also, and I've asked a couple artists sometimes of what's the best way to support them, and for me, because the longest time I would, like I said, finding new artists is usually either YouTube or Bandcamp.
Bandcamp's the way to go. And download their album.
I don't buy music anymore, but one thing I will do is, if they have, sometimes I buy music as kind of a donation, right? It's like I could download it if I wanted to, but I just want to pay the artist. But
good.
But a lot.
Because you're an artist, you understand.
Yeah, I totally get it. And for me, one thing that I always hear is really good is when you just buy their merch, right? Is when you get a shirt or a hat or a sticker or whatever, and
that's something.
And so I try to. That's something tangible that I can support them through.
Well, there we go. That's a good way to end this on merch and stuff. Are you going to design me a Mazzy Loves You logo for a T-shirt at some point?
Sure, why not?
And then, why don't you write in the comments? Would you buy a Mazzy Loves You T-shirt that he designs? He's really good, actually.
Thank you.
Would you?
Absolutely.
I'm asking them. I'm asking you.
I would also buy it.
Well, you get one free.
Okay. Then I'll get two.
Then you got to make like small, mediums, large, extra large, triple X, all these friggin' sizes. I know there's companies that do them on demand, but they just look kind of shitty. So, and we'll discuss that off the air.
Yeah.
But thanks for joining me, Joseph Mazzy Jr., Mazzy and Mazzy again. And hope you enjoyed it. Put your comments down below, and Mazzy loves you.